the Dog Show. Another new episode is coming up tonight.
It's the Dog Show. It's the Dog Show. It's the Dog Show.
You're listening to the one and only Dog Show. Your hosts, Troop Brinson and Smooch Moncrief.
Just two dudes talking Georgia football.
Welcome, dog fans, to the one and only Dog Show. Just two dudes talking Georgia football. Special guest, Coach Hayes, on tonight. What's up, Coach?
Doing well, guys. I'm excited to see you guys back from your trip. You look nice and refreshed and full of salmon, it looks like, as well, what it sounds like.
Coach Hayes, Coach Hayes.
Yes, we're going to be eating healthy for the next few years.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that because we know everybody's wanting to know some updates on what we did in Alaska. It was an epic trip. Probably, I don't know if we could have done that trip any better. And almost 200 pounds of filet coming back, 87 salmon over 3 days. So we nailed it. And it was a historic salmon run this season for Alaska. But we'll talk a bit about that. I know you folks have been craving some football. We've been, like we said, the last 9-10 days, we've been out of pocket. And so we're going to talk some football today as we approach training camp, and as things are getting going, about a month away from the season. Coach, you had some opportunity this past week, or was it last week, to meet with a couple of Georgia players?
Yeah, it's been really nice to connect and network with a lot of people, including yourselves. You know, as it's been just really nice to see all the different camaraderies that I've gotten to be a part of. Georgia Sports Autographs out of South Georgia found me on Instagram and asked me to come in and be a part of their signing day with their kids. I think they actually have Nate as part of their part of an NIL deal, and then of course there were other people there, managers for Zachariah Branch and for Ellis Robinson. It was really a well-oiled machine. It was my first rodeo, so I kind of went in and just did a lot of observing, helping if needed, you know, just putting some, you know, just trying to help if they needed anything moved or, you know, something needed to be done just miscellaneously. But what was cool about it is that most of the time they're signing a certain allotted amount of paraphernalia, and then there's a small window of time to be out there with the patrons that come see them. And, you know, I got a chance to actually sit back there and sit down with them and just talk shop with them, be able to just get to know them a little bit better, to understand them, to hear them. Like, I love listening to them banter between one another. I have to give you a little quiz here. Out of the three, which one do you think was the most quietest?
The quiet.
Give us
the three so the audience knows.
Zach Branch, Nate Frazier, Ellis Robinson.
Ellis.
Which one was the quietest?
I would say Ellis as well. Yeah.
Bingo, you are correct. Let's go the other way. Which one seemed to be more or less
Nate Frazier,
the loudest or the?
I would have said Branch actually, but no.
Believe it or not, man. Oh my God, Nate never shut up. I mean, he's constantly got. But you know what was cool about it is that he had family in town. He was trying to take care of them while he was signing. He was FaceTiming with them, talking with them, his sisters, I believe. And he was making sure they were getting food delivered to the door, DoorDash, while he was in there. And you could just tell the whole time it was all with family type calls that he was having to make. A couple of buddies called him while he was doing it, but he was just signing away. They were moving a jersey, signing away, and then talking at the same time. But I loved him for the simple fact this was something that was complimentary of me. He said, Coach, I see your breakdowns on Twitter because we follow each other. And he says, I really love what you see. He said, you have a good eye for it. And, you know, it was just appreciative to hear, you know, a kid who obviously gets good coaching and gets it every day, and to take what I did objectively and be able to give me just a small compliment in that regards as well. But to be able to talk with each one of them, Ellis, Zachariah, and Nate, I was just floored by just the humbleness of those three kids. And honestly, if the rest of the team carries the mentality of what I saw in those three, we got a special group of kids in there. And it was really exciting to see that.
Awesome. That's a good time.
Yeah, and that seems to be the feel this year, that there is as my as my children would say, there's a vibe this year with this team that seems to be very positive, very much toward the family atmosphere that Kirby kind of strives for, type of thing. And sometimes nothing binds you together like a painful loss, something that stings. And when you start taking these cast-offs and outsiders, like, taking Branch from USC, there's a story there. You kind of share that frustration together and that desire to prove you're more than that. But I had a question. Troop asked you on the phone. I wanted to hear you break it down.
Yeah.
Some in our audience and even us, we've questioned the size of Zachariah Branch. I don't know. It might be because he's so shifty. Is he SEC sized?
Well, a lot of people are going to see him standing beside me in the picture. And, of course, I'm 5'10". I weigh about 230. I've been lifting weights my entire life, so I've got a thick build. And, Zachariah to me, he reminds me a lot of what Ladd McConkey was coming in. I think he's about the same height as him, roughly. He is built very, as far as like put together very well, because like I said, when I put my arm around and make the picture, I mean, he's solid. He's definitely lifting weights and getting after it. But when it comes to that, that size actually helps his twitch. And that's something I think that's what makes him special. And I'm going to tell you right now, they very much, Nate kind of whispered to me while he was sitting there. He said, Zachariah's special, guys. He's really special. And something else that I really thought, and I think Zachariah was as serious as a heart attack. He said to me, talking, because I was talking about him they ran a lot of slot fades in the G-Day game. He said, I love the slot fade. And he was talking about how Coach Bobo during spring had implemented all these different ways to get the ball in his hands quick. Just basically talking like an extension of the running game, which I really like. He said, but the slot fade from the number 2 spot in the slot, he said he loves tremendously. He said, this is what he said. And he was like, without really any offense to Coach Riley, he said, we would implement things and never run them, never execute. He said, it took me so much longer to learn the offense at Georgia. He said, once I got the hang of it, it was fine. He said, but he said he loved Coach Bobo's offense. He loved what they were doing. He loved how they were trying to get him the ball. And when he practiced it that week, they executed it in the scrimmages in the games. And Nate was, hyping him up, saying, like, listen, he calls him Ease. I think that's his nickname, Ease, E-A-S-E.
Okay.
He said, listen, Ease. He said, you're never going to believe what it looks like in Sanford Stadium when it's packed to those 93,000 hollering fans and it's a nighttime game and you got those flashing lights. He said, it's nothing like it. And he said, he said he couldn't wait. He was very excited for that. But I was complimentary of the fact that he was talking very highly of Coach Bobo and what he's doing for him. And,
so you mean a 5-star consensus #1 receiver might know more about coaching than the average Georgia fan drinking Budweiser on the couch? Is that possible?
Exactly. But, just to hear him say that out loud, and I think he was not trying to give any shade to Coach Riley either out at USC, but I think it was just a matter of what they were trying to do with him versus what they actually executed in the games and what he sees from Coach Bobo, what they said they were going to do with him. That's come to fruition through spring and into the summer as they lock it down.
And we've noticed that into the game too, right? What Coach Smart says is the game plan. That's the game plan. We're not throwing the game plan overboard just because something goes wrong early on. You're going to execute the game plan or you're not going to win.
Yeah, and I kind of hit on the fact too, because a lot of people lose Zion Branch in this whole conversation. Zachariah tends to overshadow that, and I mentioned Zion a lot because I said I'd watched him through the G-Day game and watched him on film from what he brought. I said he's going to be competing for that strong safety position. I think Ja'Cory Thomas is going to have to be looking over his shoulder a little bit because Zion's making a run and it had a really good spring, and from what Zachariah said, he's having a really good offseason too, getting bigger, getting stronger. He says it's taking him longer to get through the playbook, obviously, because the defensive side, I guess, maybe as complex as we've talked about it being, it's there. But it was just really neat to hear their transparency. Nothing braggish, nothing overpowering or embellished. It was just straight, simple facts that just made me go, wow, that's really cool to hear, out of your mouth, that it's not something that's this fantasy or something that's way out there that just far-fetched you can't believe. Just everything was very down to earth and, like I said, very humble kids who just make me feel good about being a Georgia fan, seeing those guys in the Power G.
And how hard is it to find humble kids right now making $750,000 a year,
We could go down that rabbit hole all day long, but
Mm-hmm.
Coach Smart's talked about the relationship values of these kids, and it's very important they understand that family atmosphere and knowing that it's development going into the NFL over NIL, and we've heard that many times said. So I just think these kids get it, and like I said, if there's a lot more of those kind of youngins on the football team that carry that same vibe, then we've got a special group of kids.
Love it.
So before we get stretched out too far, a little vibe with the Dawgs show as well. A couple things really to mention. There's a little trend on Twitter right now with Grok to ask who the most famous person who's visited your site. We did that the other day. And Samuel L. Jackson has been on our page. So I don't know if you saw that, Smooch. I was like, wow.
I did not see that, but that is fantastic. Welcome aboard, Sam.
Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. Another thing is that YouTube, we have passed 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So thank you, fans.
That was a long journey, buddy. We were trooping this time
we were
last
late
year.
to YouTube, though.
Yeah.
We were late to YouTube.
Yeah, this time last year we were under 100.
We just started. We just got going.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
Congratulations,
it took a while.
guys. That's awesome.
Thank you. But to get us going on to the topics of this show as the season's rapidly approaching, I did want to talk about Georgia recruits very well. In Georgia, obviously, they are a top 2 class right now. If you go to one side, it says number 1. Another site says number 2, and you're going to have recruits flip from different programs. So things are going to change. Players are going to be re-ranked just as long as you're up there where Georgia is, and they're getting the players they want and filling needs. I feel good about that. It's going to be a very quality class. But looking at, Georgia is a team that coached by obviously Coach Smart. Defense is prominent in how his philosophy and his personality. And so I did a little digging. I was, because we all want that defensive line, that special defensive line that makes such a huge difference. And it's tough to find we remember those generational lines like Georgia's had a few in the past several seasons. And I was just looking because we really want to return to that last couple of years, maybe a little step back, not bad, but maybe a step back and stopping the run and causing havoc in the offensive backfield. But Smooch, Coach, I was just looking at some of the recruits, how well Georgia has recruited on that defensive front over the past 2 or 3 years. For you and the fans, I just listen to some of these names. I'm going to tell you what they're ranked, what they were ranked, and what star they are. That'll give you an idea of the talent level and how well Georgia's recruited in that area. Because we can miss it. Sometimes we forget how much talent they have. Right on the defense, maybe some of the most talent there on that defensive line coming up. And when I give you a 94, 95, that's of course out of 100. Anything over 90 is a quality player, right? Yeah. But when you start getting 93, 94, 95, and you get some really high-end, high-level players that 5-star where they're only like 30, 32 5-stars each year across all positions. But
is this composite? Is this composite as well? The numbers you get?
This is from On3. This is On3's numbers right here.
Okay, gotcha.
And this is kind of a depth chart in a way too. Gabe Harris, I'll bring him up real quick. He is a 4-star lineman. He graded out as a 95.42. Joseph Jonah-Ajonye, a 5-star lineman, graded out at 97.2. You have Isaiah Gibson, big recruit from last year, a 5-star player, graded out at or was rated 98.56. Moving on closer to the middle, Cristen Miller, a 4-star lineman, 94, graded at a 94, rated 94. Nasir Johnson, another 4-star, 94.44. Jordan Hall, a 5-star recruit, 97.33. Jordan Thomas, a 4-star recruit, 93.34. And then last year, the Pearl, the Diamond, Elijah Griffin, a 5-star, 99.57.
Come on.
And I'm not even mentioning like Xzavier McLeod, who was, I think he was right around 90, 89, 90, which is still a good, solid recruit who can, Georgia gets a lot of those guys that are right in that 80, 89 to 92, and they have sensational careers. These guys are all 93, 94, 95 and up. And I just named 8 players. And I didn't name Xzavier McLeod, but I just named 8 players that are all high-level recruits at Georgia. All these guys are going to play.
Absolutely.
I didn't even talk about Quinn Johnson either. All these guys, these are guys that are going to be important players this next year. So Georgia has stocked the cupboard with the talent necessary. Now, what they do on the field and how things with health and all that is to be determined. But man, they got some high quality talent across the board on that defensive front.
Yeah, I was engaging with a listener recently, and it was on, the podcast guys, they seem to say star rankings don't matter. None of that matters. And then they say, oh, look at the star rankings of these guys. Well, what you've done, star rankings really don't matter. When you're talking about a Ladd McConkey, you're talking about a Jordan Davis, and what they can become. That's where your coaching does come in. However, the more elite recruits, you're never going to hit on everybody. And matter of fact, very few coaches hit on most. And so what you do when you recruit these elite recruits, which you could not have laid out any more beautifully and succinctly, is when you're talking about these recruits, you increase your chance of hitting on players exponentially the more elite your recruiting class is. Yeah, there are going to be hits and misses, and there's going to be guys that leave, but we talk about it all the time. I think Coach calls it the blender. We talk about, lock 5 monsters in a room and see who walks out. That's your guy. And all these guys, like you said, Troop, are going to earn playing time. And Coach, I'd love to hear how you see it kind of shaking out.
There was something that Coach Smart said in the SEC media days that I really felt, it's amazing. You hear a coach speak all the time, and a lot of times they're just trying to fluff with things just to more or less glaze over components of the, what they got to do on their day in, day out routine. But there was something he said to me that I thought was really just, I don't know, unprecedented, because you just don't hear it that much. He basically made the point and said, it doesn't matter when you turn on the tape, and that's something I have to do. I have to evaluate through what I see on the internet, what I get on the internet, and the evaluation of tape on the internet, because that's all I've got objectively to look at this person by. What they're looking at from that standpoint, he said we could have 100 kids, and he was talking about from the standpoint of like DB secondary, because that's what he's familiar with. Sure. But it's the same thing with defensive line. He said we could see 100 kids tape, and every one of those kids' tape would have the validity of being a Division I player at the University of Georgia. But of course, he was compacting that with the concept of their relationship building. The ones that want to be there with that talent was what he was looking for in that combo. But I began to think to myself, that's something that probably as coaching staffs, they definitely watch tape and look at that. But I don't really think that's the forefront of what they're trying to do. They're going to evaluate these kids. That's why they invite them into camp. They want them to come in. They want to see with their own eyes what they can do against other superior talent. Even though it may be unpadded, they can see what they need to see, because they've got plenty of evaluation tools to look at these kids and say, if they've got these certain metrics, we know we've got something special. Something I'll add to it as well, Troop, because it's one of those things where they've lost in the shuffle through the 2024 and 2025 class. You look at Nasir Johnson. That's another one that I really like. He is, he's rated with the on 3. That's the reason why I wanted to know which one you were going with, so I'd stay consistent with the values. Out of Dublin, he graded out at a 94.
I watched him play in high school. He's gained a lot of weight since then. Got bigger, but man, he was a beast.
And he's one of those that I'm looking at from personnel, because I figure we'll talk about that a little bit here as we go. But I think that's what's most important, is that not worrying about the stars and worrying about the total accolades of what they achieve. That's great. It's nice to feel good when your team is in the top 5 every year in recruiting. This year, we're probably easily going to be top 3, possibly 2, maybe even 1, as you mentioned earlier, Troop. But I really do think that it doesn't matter when it comes to that, because when you look at those 30 recruits that we've got in here, especially the ones that are on the defensive line, especially the ones we've got, from the different position groups that we've got, I think that every one of them, like I said, from a coach's perspective, they have been evaluated to the nth degree. They know what they want in that player. And, it's just like a lot of people are trying to give this new, I hope he recruit. I think it's August 1st. AJ Lennon is supposed to commit.
Yes.
He's choosing between Georgia Tech and Georgia. But, that's not really the only 2 big Division I schools that are offering him. And I know he's a legacy player, and a lot of people saying, well, we're just offering it because he's a legacy player. I don't think that. I think they've seen the correct evaluation of this kid. I've watched him on tape and was impressed. I can't imagine what they've seen. They've seen him one-on-one because they've invited him in for camp. And so they know what they're getting in that kid. And I think that's something special to look at. So, as the common fan looks at the stars, I look at the evaluation of talent. And if Coach Smart and staff, whatever side they're on. I mean, if you think about it, James Coley's cooking. Dante Williams is cooking. Like I said, about the only one, Josh Crawford is about the only one that's sitting sort of on the simmer right now. He's got to improve. But, for the most part, our recruiting classes are continually improving every year with the most blue. And it's funny, this year we're going to have the most blue chip percentage, highest blue chip percentage we've ever had. And that's even better than the 21 and 22 team. Yeah. And so the only problem is you got blue chip players that are unproven. Mm-hmm. And that's the big question mark. But like I said, everything that you've said, I'm going to look at it. I don't mind the stars. If we finish top 3, top 2, top 5, whatever it is, I'm looking at the evaluation of the talent from that coaching staff and trusting that more than those stars by the recruiting companies.
Yep. And now Brett Colajay and Anthony Lunnan are going to make their decisions this weekend. I think looks like Colajay's trending towards USC. Mm-hmm. And you got to feel like London's going to choose Georgia. And then there's a running back, I think Latimer, who is right now committed to Wisconsin. Georgia's looking to try to flip him. And so they're in close contact with that. I'm even hearing that James Johnson might not be done yet. And that they're communicating with him still. And they, I don't know what it would take, but he's one of those guys that it left a weird taste in your mouth when he kind of used Georgia, it felt like, as leverage to get the deal he wanted from Texas. But I'm hearing that they're still talking to him as well.
Pull off one of those KJ Bolden moves.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's a long way between now and December, guys. There's a lot of this that's funny. We'll be talking about now. And then, while the season's going on, October, November, we might see a flip that happens that just blows our mind. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah, but to I guess echo what Coach says, and coaching staff will say this time and time again. The recruiting rankings are for the fans, but and they have their own evaluations, of course, and they want to get a player in front of them so they can take a look at them and kind of make their own judgments. But you're telling me Kirby Smart doesn't sit down to see what 247 has to say about the recruits. But it has played itself out. Top 4 or 5 classes, you need to be right in there to have the talent level, and even more so now, you got to get the right players in there, because if they're not happy in a year or so, it takes them a while to get on the field. If the wrong player or a player with other things on his mind may just hit the road and go somewhere else. So it's kind of tough to keep those guys on campus. So you really want to get those folks who are passionate about football. And they've made a point of talking about that passion and how much they want players who just want to play ball and want to come in and work and get better, and are accountable to that. And it's really tough to judge some of those things, because things change, and everybody's mind changes at some point or another.
But I will take a Kirby Smart number 3 ranked class over a Lincoln Riley number 1 ranked class any day of the week. Day of the week.
And that's what I meant in conclusion. It doesn't matter who finishes in front of me. I know the 30, 31 kids we end up with are going to be the best ones that Kirby thought were for the program, because I'm sure he had a top 50. But, obviously he can't get them all. And there's opportunities like a Tyler Atkinson that takes off to Texas, and James Johnson that flips. Those things happen, but there's people in place with those evaluations that's the reason why you see his program stay very consistent. There's not this roller coaster you're seeing with other programs, because the kids he's bringing in, that culture is being built because he's developing kids, and you don't see a ton of kids decommitting or flipping, even though I know we're talking about James Johnson, but typically Kirby Smart, for the most part, keeps the kids that commit to him and develop them. You see, like I said, we see our normal share of in the transfer portal, but that's because kids don't have the opportunity to play because they're flooded in their position group and they need to go somewhere else to get some playing time. That's perfectly fine. But, that to me is what helps the culture at Georgia and what makes us a little bit different than a lot of those teams that are fighting for, recruits with the bags and not seeing the consistency they'd like to see.
Kirby Smart just said something. He kind of throw a barb every once in a while on that, and how proud he is of the culture they've developed. Where he said, we're not the type of team that's bringing in 30 and 40 transfers a year, and that's exactly what he was getting at. If you're a transfer at Georgia, they really wanted you because you're a culture fit as well as an athleticism bonus. Yeah.
Yep.
Definitely more evidence to go on when you get this many transfers. So that helps. They say right now, it's been talking season for a while, and it's going to continue to be talking season, but it's more hot take season right now, and predictions and things of that nature. as people are weighing in on what, because the season is rapidly approaching. And so it was, this has been on my mind for a while, and it's changed a little bit with some of our rivalries. And it feels like right now, Alabama and Texas they're both coming to Athens this year, but they're teams that we really want to beat, but not just, on the field, of course, on the recruiting trail, but it feels like it's been turned up a few notches in this off season, especially with Texas and the battles we've had with them recruiting. Always Alabama, because Alabama's that type of program. They lost, 3, 4? They was three games last year. Or was it 4?
Bama 3.
They lost 3.
Yeah, and so they took a little step back last year. We'll see what happens with them this year. I expect them to be right there. But I was just thinking that if you want to win every game, you really do. A program like Georgia should expect to win every time they're on the field, and that's what always they're planning for. Expectation and the standard. If they lost a game, or let's just say it this way, if they could only beat Texas or Bama, they could just pick one of those teams. Which is the most important win for this season, based on, I guess, the current situation we've been in? I think you can look at last season, this season, next season, but right now, which is the team that Georgia needs to win that game this year? What's your thoughts, Smooch?
Well, I'll tell you, if I'm looking at it from me personally, first of all, I hate the question, True Brinson, because
you don't want to say, well, it's okay to lose this game.
Right, because it's not. It's the luxury of being a Georgia fan is that losses sting. They're not just part of life like they are for other programs. I remember what Brock Bowers talking about. He lost 2 games while he was at Georgia, something insane like that.
Yeah, I heard that.
Right. But anyway, I'll tell you this, for me, and this is a personal thing. If Georgia and Texas are going to play, Georgia's going to play Texas, Georgia's going to play Alabama. You can only win one game. For me, it is Alabama. I am so tired of walking into games against Bama, SEC title games or regular season game last year, and made a game of it late last year. But there is I'm not going to call it a mental block yet. And the way you extinguish that mindset is by going out and destroying them. What is it, September 24th? Not that I'm counting.
7th. 27th.
27th. Yeah.
27th. Yeah.
It's 27th. Yeah. It's in September. And that's the way you exercise those demons. So for me, it's Bama. When you beat Bama, you beat an entire brand and standard that Texas just isn't up to yet. Georgia's proven they know how to handle Texas. Kirby's proven he can handle Sark, and which was a surprise to every single pundit in the football cognoscenti both times he did it, and he did it with a backup quarterback.
Yeah.
But now Gunner's the guy. I want to see him go in and vanquish the Alabama demon. If I got to pick one, I want to see Georgia take care of business against Bama, Coach.
Again, I want to whoop both their asses, honestly. Texas in 1 year has pissed me off for the entire decade that I've been pissed at Bama, to tell you honest truth. This last year, Texas has basically filled up my tank of pissed offness to the point where I hate them as much as I do Alabama. But you hit the nail on the head to me. To tell you the truth, I hate to even admit this, but I'd almost rather lose at Neyland Stadium to Tennessee week 3 to go ahead and beat Texas and Alabama at home and have that monkey off our back because we're losing early in the season. Right. I'm kind of stepping outside the boundary of the question, Troop, and I'm sorry.
Okay.
But I would almost take that and get us on the, Georgia's terrible. They lost to Tennessee, they're going downhill, and hear all that to finish and just vanquish everybody after that. It's just like going on a march and take care of business for the rest of the year, because you've got to be able to take those things in stride. But to answer your question, if I had to say to lose to one of them, I would have to say losing to Texas would be good, because right now, Texas, we have their number. They don't seem to understand what it takes to create a culture out there. They're trying to do things by shortcuts. That's what's making me mad. I could care less about the recruiting right now and them winning some recruiting battles. But we have got to, as you said it, Smooch, exercise our demons against the Alabama Crimson Tide. I don't care who their head coach is. I don't care who the players are now. It's Georgia versus Bama, and we have got to go in. And not only that, I want to soundly beat them.
Yes.
I don't want it to be a game like it was even last year where it's back and forth, a high offensive scoring game. I would love for us to dominate them, very similar to how what we did to, say, Oregon in 2022, where it's just an offensive, powerhouse just getting after their tail and slowing them down defensively to where it's not even a game by midway through the fourth quarter. That to me would be, just unbelievably relinquishing to see that happen. So I'll go with Bama. Yes.
Totally agree. All right, Troop.
That'd be fun. The thing that changes things a little bit is that those Texas fans are something else. I mean, they're kind of like USC fans. They just think that they never left the top of the football world and they have a good season, and which USC hasn't, and they think they're right back there, and they demand you to treat them that way. But now you also don't have Saban at Alabama. And so it felt like DeBoer maybe doesn't have that same kind of sachet, that same kind of there's just something missing from his coaching style and what they did last year. So I'm wondering if, Texas is the next team that Georgia has to put their thumb on or to battle. Maybe Alabama takes a couple steps back. With that being said, I agree with you. You got to beat Bama. You got to, because I feel like Georgia went into Texas last year. Texas had everything lined up. Everything lined up. Everybody predicted that Texas. Everything looked like Texas was the better team at their own house in Georgia. I just watched that game again Monday, by the way, and they just let them know, you're not here yet. Alabama and Georgia still have much more talented teams overall than does Texas, and Texas has got the Arch Manning factor. We'll see if that makes any difference. He's proven just about as much as Gunnar Stockton has, and I think Georgia has a better roster. They do have a better roster. So, but I think you really have to go ahead and if Bama's kind of trending the wrong way and Texas is trending up, but go ahead and kick some dirt on top of Bama. They got beat by Vanderbilt last year, right? And by Tennessee last year as well.
Oh, that was a terrible game. Oh, that was a terrible game.
And so, you at some point you've got to let the nation know that the past is the past. I mean, you have to do that on the field. It has to happen on the field. All the talking that we hear from all these fan bases, it still has to. Football eventually has to happen, and Georgia really, really, I think for their program needs to win that game, and I feel like they will. I feel really good, like Coach said. I don't think Coach was predicting a 49-3 win, but man,
I'll go on record 49-3 win against Alabama. Yeah. I'll go on record. I
don't think many people expected that against Oregon either, and all of a sudden when we went out there and did that, it was like, okay, this team is for real.
This team can get it done. And Stetson Bennett didn't throw a pass over 15 yards, and was the best quarterback in the world that day.
You look at it too. Our offense really struggled, to tell you the truth, in both games. You know that Peyton Woodring and Trevor Etienne were the only two people to actually score points against Texas in both games.
Yeah.
There was nobody else that had a score. And of course the defense set up short fields for Georgia in the game in Austin. And, we executed to do that. And then of course it was just a back and forth slosh bucket in the SEC championship. So I look at like Bama this year, returning a lot of defensive guys. They're really going to be good defensively. It's going to be a true test for us offensively to see what we can do. But it's a matter, I think that's what brings the butterflies in the stomach and why we have such a great feeling of this year, because there are those unknowns, and that's what makes college football so great, is to be able to see these kids that we've watched in small sample sizes execute and do some things, but now they've got to go out for 4 quarters and play consistently all year long. And, we're putting a lot of names out there that we just haven't seen a lot of. So that's what makes this game special. That's what makes it phenomenal. And we'll really know, it comes down to it. I have a feeling after we finish with those 2 games at the beginning of the year against Marshall and Austin Peay, and we head to Neyland Stadium, we're going to have a pretty good feel of what we truly have in our team, even though I know those first 2 games are going to be kind of a warm-up to those Volunteers in Knoxville.
To kind of put my bow on the end of this, for there to be a rivalry, both teams have to be able to win. Until Texas proves it, you're not a rival yet. Losing in overtime to Georgia does not make you their rival. We go back to the next game. as long as when Steve Sarkisian goes to bed at night, he checks underneath his bed for Jalen Walker just to make sure he's not there. And the thing is there's another Jalen. There's another one coming this year. So I just don't feel Texas is there. I think that Bama carries so much gravitas in that name, in that ugly A with a little thing on top of it. Every single thing about them. And you know, Georgia stood up to them one night, and a night when it mattered most, and got it done. And that lessens the sting. But let me tell you, that game last year in Tuscaloosa, that one stung. And the sloppy way and the desperate way we had to come back, though it was beautiful, it was very un-Georgia. We should have never been in that position. I just want to see all of that done. Let's go ahead and say, okay, that was a blip on the radar. Here's what this team really is.
You got to hope that Bama walks into the same kind of buzzsaw in Athens. The fans are going to be ready for it. You just, if Georgia lands a couple of big blows early, man, it might. I hate to throw this out there and say, you know, we could run them. I think it's going to be a tough game. Both teams are really talented. We just don't know what DeBoer is capable of in the SEC just yet. He was in over his head a little bit to start the season last year. I think he maybe got some things together, but just to hear what some of the players were saying, how they were just really not preparing the way you have to prepare in the SEC. Now they're like, now we're taking it seriously.
Yes, now we're really serious this year.
But how fortunate are we to have some of these home games this year? We've been due to have these kind of games. These kind of teams coming to Athens. Man, we're so lucky. That's one reason. Even if we don't go undefeated this year, we're going to have a great time with college football because the product's going to be spectacular. And we're all excited to see what Georgia's going to have. We're a very, very young team. And we like those type players. Then you get the right players and the right combination. The talent will be there. Just got to get it done on the field. We can't wait to see it happen. So.
Yeah, this team this year, compare it. Let's say you take the 2021 team, which this team actually has, as Coach said earlier, a higher blue chip ratio than that national championship team. But that team executed. They were suffocating on defense. They just got out there and they took care of business. I see this team as, when you've got young players, you're going to see moments of brilliance and moments of what in the world was that. And so you may see more scoop and scores. You may see more pick sixes with this team. You may see more sacks. You also may see more blown plays. That's kind of how I see this happening, because you're just going to have these wild dogs, no pun intended. We got so many guys with so much athleticism. You're going to have moments of just exhilaration and moments of what were they thinking there, just because of the age thing. But it makes for an exciting season, True Brinson.
Anything else you guys want to talk about before we crack into our week in Alaska? Anything else on the docket for what you're thinking about this week, or just in terms of the team?
I did want to give you guys this, just to give our listeners and the people who are trying to understand about our defensive front, because we were talking about the recruits and obviously who we're looking at. I did some research because obviously I'm doing personnel groupings over the next month and a half and doing an evaluation. This week I'll be doing running backs on my show this Thursday. But I just want to call out these names right here. Now, you got to understand, when we play a lot of nickel, so that means we have a four-man front with an outside linebacker as an end. So let's hear the names of these type of people, okay? Harris, Quintavious, Medozi, Chris Jones, Darren Icky. They call him Icky. Economog. Economon is his name. Now, listen, when you do that, you've got three down lineman positions. When you've got people that are, when they shift, you've got to think that tackle that slides out to the other end playing a 5 technique on the weak side tackle, okay? We've got these guys to play those positions. Ajonye, Griffin, Miller, Gibson. Then you've got McLeod, Horton, Miller, Jordan Thomas. Then you've got people like Nasir Johnson, Nanamne Oboko. And of course, all these guys can rotate in playing that zero technique over the center. So you got a lot of kids. We were talking about earlier, the reason why I wanted to tell you those, Troop, is that you were naming off all these kids with those composite scores of over 90. There's not one kid on this list right here that's 6'3" or less. Every one of them are 6'4", 6'5", 275 pounds up to 340 pounds, and can move. So this, just like I said, and like we've said earlier, it's unproven. And that's why we feel a little uneasy about it. But it's not the fact that we don't have superior talent up front.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason why I think the big dogs are going to eat. And what we're going to see this year is something that is different than what we've seen over the last couple of years.
Agreed.
Yeah, the talent level is there. That's where we're excited about that. It's one thing if you just don't have the guys and you're trying to mix and match and trying to scheme up a weakness, but I think Georgia has all the horses they need. And just got to come into their own. They have to learn the system, and they have to do it on the field. And we are excited to see it, right, Smooch?
Absolutely, brother. Excited to see it. And I've been preparing for this moment where Gunnar Stockton was given the reins since he was in the 10th, 11th grade, somewhere around in there. I love leadership. I just men that are able to lead men. That's always really fascinated me. And we're going to find out if Gunnar has the skills to go with the undeniable intangibles. And so for me, that is a huge thing. I think as Gunnar goes, so goes this team this year. And we'll talk more about that as we get closer. But you couple all of that. You couple Gunnar finally getting his shot and the youth and talent contained therein with the rest of the team. It's setting up. We say this every year because it's always true. There's always a new crop that's exciting for a different reason. This is the youthful exuberance season for Georgia, and we'll see if those guys can't grow up and become a team by the end of the year when it really counts.
Yeah. So moving on. And so what was it? Almost a couple of weeks ago now, a week and a half ago, me and Smooch and our beautiful wives and my oldest son, Zach, decided we have been planning it for 6 months or more to head to Alaska. And we had a few things on the docket for Alaska. Main thing was fishing. We were going to fish several days there and catch as many salmon as you can. Mm-hmm. We also did some hiking. We did a lot of sightseeing and traveling. Ate a lot of great food for sure.
Oh yeah, I've been trying to sweat that out for 2 days. Yeah,
they call it the late salmon run. It's the last big salmon run of the season, especially on the Kenai. And so you usually get maybe 5, 7, sometimes a few more days of that run. And the peak of the run, a lot of times, they have these sonar things that detect how many fish are in the river, coming up river. So you kind of got an idea from the day before how big the run is. Usually a peak of the run is like 150,000. And so that's a lot of fish, but there's a lot of river to go through as well. And so that's your peak. And then it can be 75, 40, 50. I've caught plenty of fish before and there was only 50,000 running. Mm-hmm. Well, we were very fortunate to hit the river right at the peak of a historic run in Alaska. Our first day there, they had 247,000 fish coming through the river. The next day, 193,000. The next day, 183,000. And it's been going that way for almost 2 weeks now. So it was saturated. Not that, and this is not, we don't fish in the small streams where the water's only, 6 inches deep or a foot deep. So they're not like that. A little bit deeper water in some parts, but we went in there, Smooch, and it took us a day to kind of get our legs up under us and get going. Even so, that first day we went fishing. Yeah, caught a Nick Chubb.
A 27. That's right.
I caught 27, and for 5 people, the limit was 6 per person, so 30 would have been perfect. The women took a couple days to get going. Yeah. After that first day, 27. Next day we went in there.
There may have been 250,000 salmon, but there are 87 less than there were when we got there. And
it was an effort. One of the biggest issues was having places to put the fish. Yeah, we clean them, we fillet them on the river, put them in Ziploc bags, put them in the backpack cooler, and as we walk it out, we had to buy like 3 or 4 more coolers. We bought all the fishing.
3 more ice chests. Yeah, 3 more coolers.
Wow.
It was a great problem to have, Coach. It was salmon everywhere, and even the ladies limited out, and
they did. Everybody limited after the first day.
So Troop and I each have 100 pounds of fillets in our freezer right now.
Dude.
Yeah. So anybody that wants to stop by for fish, I will cook for you. Just come on by.
Yeah.
What day? Just let me know. I'm on my way.
Come on, man. Anytime.
But the weather was beautiful, and those 3 days we fished, it was 68 degrees and sunny. It was rainy a couple days before and after, a little bit of rain. but it was absolutely outstanding. We were standing in the river watching eagles fly around, just saying, how lucky are we?
Yeah.
And we're just dragging fish in left and right and just making memories that I will never forget that. Like I said, it was probably a historic. That Monday was the biggest one-day run in 47 years in Alaska. And this span of a week or two is probably nobody remembers it running this heavy. So we were a part of that. And we were so thankful and so fortunate. We didn't want to come home, Smooch. I'm telling you, I was telling everybody, I said, listen, when my plane touched down in Savannah, I said, I would get right back on the plane and go back out tomorrow and do the exact same trip again now.
Yeah, it's hard for me to believe people pay for the type of charter fishing and all the stuff they spend all the money on when this type of thing is available. People just don't understand what it is or that it exists, but it was great. At one point I was videotaping my wife videotaping. I gave my age away. I was videoing my wife catching a fish while the bald eagle swooped in and grabbed one out of the river. And
wow.
the bald eagles to the locals there are like seagulls. They don't even notice them, and we're just sitting there going, "Look, there's one." They're like, "Yes, we know. It's a bald eagle."
I'm sure Smooch has shown this clip, but there was one time I was fishing. Very rarely. I helped rig everybody up to and net it a little bit. One time I grabbed the net and put my camera on, and you'll see this. And I'm standing on the edge of the river, and Smooch hooks up. And so I'm filming him hook up. Well, then I walk in the river. I was like, it's hard. It's not easy to net those. Those are some fighting animals. Yeah, but he happened to swim right to me. And so we netted him, had the camera on Smooch, and got to go Dawgs out of it.
We do.
And spectacular.
Sweet.
It may be the new intro to the show. I'm
Give me
not
a
sure.
Dogs, Smooch.
That's a go Dogs, right?
Yeah.
Fillets, because I'm on my way.
Oh, come on, man. I'm off Fridays, so any time around there. Yeah.
Hey,
So,
you don't know how serious I am.
I do. I'm hoping you're serious, man. Come on.
That's some red meat. We'll have some clips we'll show, and we have some audio clips that I think are going to be part of our show now.
Don't get no better than this. So many colorful people on those banks, and and of course we make friends everywhere we go. So we met a dude that he had a stroke. He was an old man. He had a stroke. He could barely walk. I have no idea how he even got there. And so we got to know him. He really got to know my wife. He's a big fan of Amy Moncrief. And and so but yeah, you probably hearing him on the show so far because I'm going to work him in. But he was a quote machine.
Anyhow, we're glad to be back and be back on the radio. We'll have some stuff on the radio
just say air.
On the air is what I should
good.
say. Yes.
Yeah, I don't even know what that means. Not anymore.
You said video film.
Videotape.
So yeah, we're back on the radio too. So
yeah.
All right, Coach, tell us a little bit. You said you got some breakdowns you're doing this week.
Coach. Hayes. Coach. Hayes.
Tell me about it.
Since we got the summer workouts and obviously heading into fall practice, they're about to lock down going in. I think we're probably going to see Kirby's first presser this Thursday as they get ready for fall practice. I'll be doing my local show with Coach Hayes Huddle on Thursdays. It'll be a live show or pre-recorded. And then we'll be doing a 30-minute eval on Mondays after games, once games start, to break down offense, defense, or just particular plays within the game, player breakdowns, things like that. And that will be on all my social media outlets at Coach Hayes Huddle. You can find me on YouTube, X, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and catch me on Spotify and Apple as well with my podcast that I do. I do want to give you a quick nugget that I forgot to tell you about earlier on the day we were in the autograph room there. Each one of them all had something to say. And when they finally kind of started collaborating together and just kind of talking between themselves, there was one person in particular that they mentioned out loud, all three of them, and confirmed it, saying that this guy was going to be special. And he is a wide receiver recruit, 2025 recruit. And I'm going to see if you guys can guess which one that they were really talking up about.
Ooh.
I guess. I got two guesses I was throwing out there.
It's
either CJ Wiley or Thomas Blackshear. I think it's Wiley.
I was going to say Blackshear.
Okay. Talon Taylor.
Oh, that was the easy answer.
And his mom follows our show. I should have said Talon. Sorry, Mom.
Yeah. Well, I was just sitting here looking actually on Twitter and saw her post, and it reminded me of that. They were now, nothing against CJ. They said CJ was a beast too. He's an outside guy fighting for 50-50 balls, just like we talk about. They were just saying like a pure route runner, very fast, quick in his cuts and stuff like that. They were very complimentary. When you got kids complimenting other kids, it's pretty much something you can kind of hang your hat on and see that they definitely got respect for them. There's no doubt about that. But I thought that was a really cool little.
That's really encouraging.
nugget.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Because you just never know. You have some of these high level recruits that come in there and they're all rolled in high school, and it just takes some moment. And he didn't really flash during the G-Day game, and that's okay. That's really too high of an expectation for that situation. But he's got all the skills in the world. He is quick twitch. We like the way he moves in his hands.
I like watching him warm up. Absolutely.
We'll get a chance to see him. It's just such a deep room this year, so you wonder how it's going to shake out because you got some upperclassmen folks with some time on the field who are going to be out there a good bit. And so we'll see how. It's always interesting to me to see how the coaching staff implement some of these players, gets them in there, get some snaps, and not just the garbage time snaps, but get them in a package and utilize them, get them integrated into the game plan. We'll be interested to see how they work that out. So.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I enjoyed it so much. Glad to be back on the air. And thank you so much again for subscribing on YouTube as well as all our other platforms. It's been an honor and a pleasure to talk football with you folks. We are, again, just two dudes talking Georgia football. But we appreciate you, Coach. For Coach Hayes and Smooch Moncrief, this is Troop Brinson saying so long. We'll see you soon.
This is the Dog Show with Troop and Smooch.
It's the Dog Show. It's the Dog Show. It's the Dog Show.
The beat of the bang of the boom.